Hello. Let's now focus on an aspect of your role which is not enjoyable but is extremely necessary if you are to ensure that that staff member develops in the way they require and ultimately the way we require them to. Again, it's going to be awkward. You will have to highlight that someone isn't doing their job correctly, or it could well be that the conversation may become difficult because as a coach or a mentor, they are failing to grasp some of the elements of development that you are prompting them to undertake. It's also important to understand that our role is also in part to hold them accountable for their actions. But how can we ensure difficult conversations go as well as possible? Because ultimately, when it comes to difficult conversations, what we're looking to see is a shift, a change, an understanding from the staff member that what we are seeing needs to be recognised and then acted upon. That's where that culture of openness and reflection is going to be important. Because if they feel like they're able to trust you in previous sessions, then the information that you give them will be taken warm-heartedly. It might not be obviously taken in a way which they see positively at first, but it's so important that we make sure that we provide that information. How do we therefore undertake that kind of conversation? Well, first and foremost, do not delay it. Impact is lost and therefore more harm can be done if you procrastinate. It's also going to be really important to rehearse the discussion. You know the individual that you're speaking with well, so you should hopefully be aware of the way in which they may react to certain things. So rehearse that conversation and consider what you will say. Is that something you do in the car on the way to school? Is that a conversation that you prepare with another member of staff to get their perspective? It may well also be the case that you want to converse with other colleagues in regards to what you may have seen. But of course, we need to ensure that we handle that sensitively so that we don't impact negatively on the perception of that staff member and your relationship with them in the school. It's also worth remembering that you will want to make development the focus of the conversation. Whatever you're trying to get them to develop, this should also be wrapped up in a sense of positivity. It's also worth remembering that you are their champion, so how can you support them to enable this development? Again, that's why the idea of empathy and putting yourself in their place is going to be so important. Don't be highly critical in that regard. Establish why something isn't working for them and then put things in place to divert their practice. That's exactly why you are their coach or their mentor. You will also want to be implementing the idea of highlighting their strengths, the praise sandwich. Whilst you want to address the issue at hand, you also want to remind them of the qualities they have. For instance, you might be working with a staff member whose confidence is rather brittle, so to just simply highlight aspects they're looking to develop if we're not mindful of the way you say things. You also want to remember that a conversation here is still a conversation. The staff member needs to feel that they have their perspective listened to, and that in turn will help diffuse the issue because you're able then to gauge their perspective, and they are also able to feel that this is a space where they can talk openly about any issue. That's why it's important that you have that positive working relationship, because if your sessions are designed in a way which allows a sense of openness and discussion, then all the conversations that you have, even if they're touching upon areas of development which may be sensitive and seem difficult in terms of conversing, then they'll be taken in a much better way. Difficult conversations or developmental conversations, or however you want to word them, aren't the easiest part of your role, but is actually one of the most important parts of your role. Thank you.